Hey, everybody. Frank here with Tithely, coming to you on another episode of Modern Church Leader, talking with my new buddy who has the best Twitter handle maybe out there, the Peddling Pastor. Travis, man, thanks for coming on the show.
No, man, great to be here. Thanks, Frank. Thanks for the opportunity.
Absolutely. Is this a Boston Celtics hat that you have on, or what is
It's actually a Red Sox hat, the one that they do for St. Patrick's Day. So
Got it.
yeah.
Okay. Are you a baseball guy?
I am a baseball guy. Yeah. I love baseball. It's one of the few places where you can still get a clergy pass. So,
Nice.
Yeah.
I don't even know what a clergy pass is. So,
Well, if you are, if you live in New England proper, you get 2 free tickets a year as a clergy person. If you are in Boston, the city of Boston, you get a year-long pass. And, it's just an ancient tradition. It's back when they started playing Sunday games and they wanted the clergy not to be against Sunday games. So they would give out these free passes.
wow.
And the only two, Cincinnati and the Cardinals still do it. So, yeah.
Okay. So you literally have season tickets, or it's 2 tickets?
Well, it kind of fluctuates. You really just have to, like for Cleveland and Cincinnati, they give you, St. Louis and Cincinnati, they give you a pass.
Okay.
And you just show up and you get, SRO seat, or not, that's an oxymoron. You get an SRO pass, for
Okay.
wherever you can find. And in Boston, it's the same way. There's 100 seats that are given out each day.
Okay.
So you get in line, and if you're number 101, you don't get it. So
Got it. Okay.
Yeah.
Dude, that's pretty
Yeah.
cool. I never knew that existed. You learn
Yeah.
something new.
I'm always trying to get the Twins here to do it, but they haven't taken me up on it yet.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh, too good. Well, man, why don't you tell, for the listeners, tell us a little bit about yourself and the church you lead and even how you got into ministry. Just give a little bit of the backstory.
Yeah, sure. So I'm the pastor at Judson Memorial Baptist Church. It's a neighborhood Baptist church in South Minneapolis. It's a great place. It's full of artists and social workers and teachers and people trying to change the world. For a lot of people, I think for a lot of them into church, it's kind of their last stop for Christianity. So we get a lot of, I call it the island of misfit toys, is what we kind of look at ourselves as. We fit that role pretty well, I think.
Yeah.
I've been a pastor for 22 years. I graduated in seminary in 2000, so it's been that way. I grew up in West Virginia. Just a long story short, my cousin, when I was 16 years old, he was my closest peer. He was out mowing the grass. He had a heart attack and died. And I went to the funeral, and it just wasn't a very good experience. And the pastor didn't do a very good job at all. He kind of used my cousin's death. And so I don't know why, but on the ride home, I just decided I would devote my life to trying to redeem his funeral. And the closest thing I could do was be a pastor. So that Sunday I went forward at my church. The next Sunday I was baptized, and the next Sunday I was in my pastor's office going, "Hey, how do I become a pastor?" And they were gracious enough to walk me through that path. Yeah.
You showed up in the office, how do I become a pastor? First time you just showed up, the pastor's what?
Yeah, he was exactly like, I don't understand what you're talking about. So, he made me, looking back on it, was very gracious. He took me out to lunch,
Right.
Probably once a week, and just tried to show me the ropes and kind of taught me the initial, kind of skills of preaching and pastoral care and how do you become a minister. He was very gracious in it. So I really, I'm thankful for him for the time he took with me.
Right. Yeah. That's, a sad way to make that decision, but it sounds like it's been a pretty amazing 22 years or so. And, God uses all kinds of situations, right?
For sure.
Change the trajectory of our lives.
I'll just roll with it. Yeah.
That's awesome.
It was kind of odd as a young person to tell everybody this is what I'm going to be, and everyone else is trying to figure it out. And I already had the answer, So when I talk to kids, youth today, I'm just, I tell them, look, my experience is going to be nothing like yours. It may take you a while to find it, or who knows, you may at 16, maybe in a back of a Camaro, and you find out, God's going to speak to you then. So
right. Yeah. Who knows? So you kind of bounced around. You've been a pastor at a few different churches. How did you land out there?
Here in Minneapolis, I well, I was in New Orleans before this, and I loved it there. And I was looking for a new job, and I tell you what, I was one of these things where I just kept going through search processes and never finding anything that would work. It'd get down to two candidates, and the church would always choose the other person. And I was like, okay, I guess that's it. So on a lark, really, this church called and just said, hey, we'd like to have just an exploratory conversation with you.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay. And we had this exploratory conversation, and it was right, at the beginning of kind of kind of this kind of media, trying to look through the computer to talk to each other. And they didn't really know how it worked. It was in a really dark room they were. And, I forgot that you're supposed to look at the camera. So all they saw was the top of my head the whole time. And we made all kind of mistakes. And yet they were just this really kind of fun, quirky bunch of people. And we like, hey, let's just roll the dice and see where this lands. And we had this beautiful conversation, and here we are. Yeah.
And you did it over probably predates Zoom, it sounds like, but you did.
Yeah, I'm trying. I can't even remember the program we used. Right,
like Microsoft, it was probably or maybe Google Hangouts or Microsoft something. I forget. They have a platform.
It wasn't very good at all. There's a big lag between what I would say and they would say, and
Right.
Yeah, they were just kind of still, and then they would kind of move really quick. So it was a lot of herky jerky stuff. And yeah.
That's amazing. Wow. Yeah. I mean, hired over the internet. Who knew?
Then we met each other face to face and all that stuff. Yeah.
You can put that on the resume,
Yeah.
I crush it on internet interviews.
Yeah. I should have. I will. And then from now on. Yeah.
Too good. Well, man, I know you have a particular passion about doing neighborhood ministry.
Yeah.
That's kind of what you're all about. Sounds like you pastor at kind of a real neighborhood, local church, which is beautiful, right? That's hundreds of thousands of churches like that all over America.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
I think what's beautiful is a lot of the big churches get a lot of the press, but that's not necessarily what's normal for it. Most pastors are at kind of smaller churches, local community churches, doing work in the community. So I love talking to pastors like you because, there's lots of you out there that can learn from each other,
Yeah,
so hopefully that's kind of the goal of the podcast, right? Is to hopefully other pastors that are in similar kind of situations can learn some things from, folks that are on the show. So, and I guess your Twitter handle says it all, the peddling pastor.
Yeah, well, so about 9 years ago. So I've always loved bicycles. I've always ridden bicycles. I loved it, and I've tried to be a pedaling pastor in several situations, and it just didn't work. The infrastructure wasn't there, or I didn't have the commitment, or whatever it was. But about 9 years ago, I was preaching a sermon, and I asked the congregation, what would you be willing to sacrifice so that others might experience joy? Just a kind of a general question. And so my daughter at the time, she's now a senior in college, but she was at the time 11, asked me, she said, hey, Dad, before I put her to bed, she said, I've been thinking about your sermon, and I want to know, what are you willing to sacrifice so that others may experience joy? And, in that moment, I just felt like a complete phony. I felt that my mouth felt ashen. And I just said, you know what, sweetie, I don't know the answer, but give me some time. Give me a night, and I'll figure it out. So I put her to bed. I went to the kitchen table and just cleared everything off. And I had my 3 or 4 notebooks and my laptop out, and I just started figuring it out. I said, okay, I'm going to figure out a way to sell my car and walk, bike, and take the bus for my job as a pastor. And this was in January. Terrible time started here in Minneapolis. Yeah, in the middle of something they call the polar vortex. So I at the same time that this was going on, the heater in my car went out, and I said, okay, this is a sign from above that I need to do this. So sold the car as was, took the proceeds and got some metal studded tires for my bike. Bought these gloves that looked like something that you'd handle molten lava with, and these ski goggles and a face mask, and just started doing things I didn't really know how to do. So I just started biking in the winter and started taking the bus and started walking everywhere. And it just changed everything for me. It just changed the way I looked at ministry and life. And I realized that, I pray for the city of Minneapolis. The church prays for it on Sunday, but I really don't know what I'm praying for or the people that I should be praying for or how God's working. And, on the bus, for me, it was like a miniature class in urban studies. So I would meet people beside me, as a dad that was working 3 jobs and he was taking a bus in between jobs, or
Right.
there's a Somali immigrant and she was reading Nickel and Dimed and we're talking about what life's like for her. It was just amazing. So,
Yeah.
And from then I just kept riding the bike and new things just kept emerging. So I can tell you which house is the garlic house, because on Wednesdays they always make pasta with roasted garlic. I can point it out. I can show you the house where the kids are always playing kickball, and sometimes when I come by, they try to hit me with the kickball, and I try to catch it as I go by. Just things like that. You get to know the neighborhood
Right.
on your bike and walking, and just ways you can't in a car. Yeah.
Right. I mean, so did you go back to your daughter? Like you gotta I need you to close out this story real quick, and then we'll.
Sorry, yeah, I get ahead of myself on this one. Yeah, so I go to the kids and my wife, and I say, look, here's my idea. We're going to sell the car or sell the van, and I'm going to ride the bus and ride my bike for my job. And they just had a look of abject horror on their face. And I said, okay, look, this is my experiment, not yours. We're going to keep one vehicle that we'll ride as a family, but you all don't have to do this. And
Right.
so then they got a big look of relief, and we're okay with it. So yeah.
They're like, you're the traveling pastor or the bicycling
exactly.
pastor,
Yeah.
not us.
Yeah, exactly. But what, they over time, they learned how to ride the bus system. They learned to walk. They already know how to walk, but they know how to walk the city, and they take their bikes everywhere. And yeah, they kind of adopted it too. So they don't fight me anymore.
Right. Yeah, that's very cool. So I don't know, give me, like, you kind of shared like some of the things that you've observed and seen, but
yeah.
What have you seen? How many? So it's 9 years you said you've been doing this,
yeah,
give or take.
Mm-hmm.
How has it helped you, or give us some of the stories of just sort of ministry happening and your experiences, starting to do that? Like, how did you see it start to really play out from I guess I'm trying, like, you did it to bring others joy.
Yeah.
But just because you're walking doesn't necessarily, right. But
yeah,
I'm sure it has had some kind of impact. Like, give me some of those stories or experiences.
Yeah. Well, before it was kind of like, it was more of an environmental thing, was kind of the whole point really for myself. And then the more, just the people that you meet, like, you can't meet them in a car. And we have a car, obviously, but like, right. A car is a sealed exoskeleton that has, it's kind of a bubble that you protects yourself from the people around you.
Right.
And so when you're on a bike or walking or on the bus, you just meet people in ways your heart's more vulnerable, and you start to encounter people in ways that you can't encounter them otherwise. So for us, it really, for the church, myself, it changed us. We just became more community oriented. I started plotting on a Google map where I was going each day. And I looked and I said, this looks like kind of an old medieval parish, like a 3-mile circle around the church. That's really kind of where I spend most of my time, visiting people or in the community. So what if we adopted this parish rather than trying to think of all of Minneapolis and St. Paul and the surrounding areas as this kind of gigantic place to minister to? What if we just concentrated on our neighborhood and got to know the people in the neighborhood, their needs, and try to see, God working in the midst of this neighborhood.
Right.
That's kind of like where the biggest shift happened. And then we started new metrics. How do we measure, are we successful or not? And, my biggest metric right now is, how many dogs do you meet during the week? Because if you meet people and their dogs, that means you're with people and you're engaging them in some weeks. And, there's one guy, there's a guy and his dog, Bart and Buddy. and I don't know which one's Bart and which one is Buddy. I just know them as Bart and Buddy. And so when I see them, I just say the same, and they both respond to me. They both just kind of look up at me. I don't know which is which. So, I mean, those are kind of, it just gives us a metrical way that we are in the community and more than just, doing otherwise, just counting people that are attending worship. Yeah.
Right. I mean, I do think that's actually a really interesting way to arrive at the conclusion, like, hey, we're really going to be like a community church. So I'm not going to think about the entire city because that's really difficult and overwhelming. And like, how do you even know? Mm-hmm. But I'm going to think about the 5 mile radius or the 3 mile radius around I'm assuming you guys have a building or a location or something like that.
Yeah, we do. Okay. Yeah.
So you're like, okay, 5 miles around this is kind of our neighborhood. We're going to go figure out what have you learned about the neighborhood as you did? Like once you made that connection, you know how many dogs are there.
Yeah.
It sounds like. But what other things kind of like it's almost like, how did God sort of expand your thinking around community church once you had that like epiphany?
Yeah. Well, the biggest part was, so I had a friend who did, he was in Chicago and he did 100 one-on-one conversations in a summer. And I thought, that's a great idea. I can't do 100 in a summer, but the church was turning 111. And I thought, like, maybe it was 110. I said, maybe could I try in a year to do 110 conversations one-on-one with people in the community?
Right.
So started that off, and I got to 62, and then the pandemic shut everything down. So, but I've picked it back up now. But those initial things, I asked 4 questions of everybody. We met in the same coffee shop, at the same seat, and I just would tell people to meet me there, and I'll ask you 4 questions. And they were, do you even know where Judson Church is? And nobody did. It's the people that live around here said they didn't know where we were. There's one guy said, you have those great yellow chairs. He lives behind the church. And he said, you have those great yellow chairs. And I'm like, we don't even have a yard. We don't have any yellow chairs. And, he thought we were like this Episcopalian church 2 miles away. And I'm like, yeah, you live behind us. And so then I'd ask people like, okay, you don't know anything. You don't even know where we are. Do you know anything about us at all?
Yeah.
Have you heard of our name ever? And people would say, I know that there's a preschool and there's a really cool playground. Is that where your church is? Mm-hmm. And okay, we learned that more people know about our playground than anything else. And then I asked people, what keeps you up at night? And, if you had a chance to get on your soapbox and tell a church anything they want, what would you tell them? And then we learned that there were 3 things kind of, almost not universal, but, after all those conversations, we boiled it down to 3 things. People were worried about housing, either the people experiencing homelessness in the neighborhood, or they just couldn't afford to live here anymore. That's what they were scared of, getting priced out. People were really concerned about mental health issues with their kids and neighbors. They just didn't know what to do. And then they were worried about being lonely. There's people just were generally lonely. People always think, well, as a church, you've got the loneliness down, right? You can just open your doors and people will come in. And I'm like, right. Have you ever been to a church before? Do you know how this works? Like,
you're like, we're all just as messed up as people outside the doors. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. I mean, loneliness is the hardest part that's the hardest issue to get at. So those 3 things have kind of changed the way that we do ministry. So we're trying to look at, okay, how do we work at loneliness and build community again? And how do people get to know each other? Economics, like, is there a different way of, scheduling out how you do your finances, and how can you afford to stay in the place you are? Can you change your life into some way to make it more doable? And we have space in this building. Can we center it more for counselors to have space here so they can help kids and families who with mental health issues? So, I mean, that's those things, just if we'd have thought, like, we're just going to do everything in the city.
Right.
I don't know where we would have started. It'd have been like one of those, I call it, it's a church of, it's a state of 10,000 lakes. And I say, we're the church of 10,000 great ideas, but, you have these great ideas, but they never come to fruition. So this focusing in kind of helped us give some boundaries, and
right.
The conversations really directed where we thought, God, has us really kind of focused in on.
Yeah. I mean, I love that. I love how, starting to kind of not use the car and you're getting around, and it makes you think this idea of like a local community church. And then that spurs an idea of like, okay, I'm going to go meet with 110 people. And, you have this 4 questions, and now you're learning about the community. Cause I think that's actually really hard for church leaders to do. Like, how do I really learn about my community? Like right here, maybe I didn't grow up here. I moved in, and, I didn't live my whole life here, so I don't know everything. Like, how do I figure this out? How do I figure out what my community needs and how I can serve it? So I think that's cool. Like, I think it's really cool. I talked to another church, this was a while ago, and the conversation stuck with me because they shared a similar heart for the community. And they started going to like business meetings and PTA meetings and school board meetings. And like, they just, the way they did it was try to find all of the community group meetings that are happening where like the public can attend or you can kind of get into, and they would just go to those and listen and get to know people there and then start engaging, so they kind of did a thing like that to try to figure out their community. Like, how could they be a light right there in their community and serve the people there? So I think that's cool. So since you did that, it sounds like that was pre-pandemic, maybe a little bit after. I lose track of time because of the pandemic. So, now you've been, sounds like implementing some of that stuff. I don't know have you seen the church change? Like you've gone on the journey. Has the whole church gone on the journey with you and sort of become more of a community church within the people?
Yeah. What kind of brought all this, so I wrote a book, it's called Church on the Move.
Yeah.
And so then the church started, even though I've been saying these ideas for a long time, then the church, they bought my book and then started like getting the ideas again, in a different way. Yeah. And they're like, hey, we got to start being more community focused. So that helped out a lot. Right. But I did find, that like right now, we're trying to, like for the loneliness piece, we're trying to experiment a lot on, how can we use hospitality? In the worship service, we started a little thing called Sacred Circle. So we kind of ask a question and then ask people to get in groups of about 4 or 5 and just share just a little bit for 3 minutes. Now, some people go really deep in 3 minutes, a little too deep probably. But we're just trying to get some ways for for strangers to, how do they get to become friends with new people? I just think about, when I first moved here, it was really hard to get integrated in the community. Right. And I even thought, I thought about putting an ad on Craigslist, hey, looking for friends, I like to bike and I like, these kind of things. And other people like, whatever you do, don't do that. You know what kind of wackadoodle is going to respond. But, I think that there's a common, you got people moving into cities. How do they make friends? It's it's a tough thing to do nowadays. And how can the church be a part where people, make new friends and are walking on a different journey with each other? Right. Yeah. So it's because I think it's been our biggest part. And also, again, just trying to make sure that we have space for counselors, that they know that this is a place where they can get, pretty below market rental and, good access to that. So, we've seen those things start, post-pandemic to really start to come around. Right.
Are you getting the word out? Do more people know you exist and are in the community?
Well, yeah. So here's how this has been a great thing. So during the winter, I was listening to the radio, and Kathy Werzer, she's the person here on the public radio, and every morning she would start to say, she would always give her traffic reports about 18-wheeler is jackknifed, or there's a Toyota Corolla on fire on exit 13. And I said, hey Kathy, would you consider doing if I get enough people to every morning submit a bicycle commute report, would you air it? Would you put it on the air? And she said, sure, on a lark. Right. She didn't think it would happen. So I started, every morning at 6 a.m. I'd go out and ride my bike, and then I'd come back and I'd be like, the snow is like mashed potatoes this morning, or it's like the ice is kind of like flour on the linoleum, or you just got to watch out for. I was just trying to give people when they were on their bikes, they would know what to expect when they were riding to work. And that was like the greatest marketing thing I've ever had in my life. Like more people know about the church and me now just from the bike commute report, which makes no sense at all to me. I mean, I'll take whatever I can get, but that has really helped out that. And so if you had that kind of stacked up with our community approach, then people started putting two and two together. Oh, hey, you're the pedaling pastor, or that's Judson Church that does those kind of things. So that's how we've kind of built. Are
you still doing the bike report?
Yeah, in the summer, nobody cares. Nobody. Yeah. We tried to do it, and what happens now is every day is just a great day. Hey, it's a great day to ride your bike. That's all you can say. Yeah.
Yeah, it's another great day. You got to give them alternate routes. Like to see.
Yeah, but we were trying to do what birds could you see if you took this route? There are all kind of things I was trying to think of, but at the end, everybody's just people are vacationing. No one's really paying attention to the bike commute report. But this fall we'll be back at it. Yeah.
I want to know if you actually see anybody else out on a bike when it's snowing.
Oh yeah. You mean there's enough of a community here where you see. I usually count tracks. Where there's fresh snow. When I'm out at 6 a.m., there's about 6 or 7 other people out with me in my neighborhood. But I don't know if you ever had the opportunity, but if you can bike at 2:00 in the morning in the winter time after fresh snow, it is the greatest time ever to ride a bike because it's the city's complete silent and there's no one else out and you have the roads to yourself and there's just it's just a magical time. Yeah.
I'm not sure if I want to get up at 2 a.m. to ride my bike in the snow. But I get it. I get the piece. And if the city's kind of shut down, I do get it. It sounds like you need to start like a bike ministry at your church. And
we're trying to. Yeah, okay, no, exactly.
Yeah, it feels like a natural, get all the folks that love to ride bikes. And
yeah, whenever we have an open streets here in the cities, we always do a bike blessing station. There's actually the patron saint of bicyclists, and I'm trying to build a little shrine that I'm going to have on a trailer, and I'll just ride it around during bike events. That if people want to drop in a prayer, they could. Yeah.
Oh my gosh, this is awesome! I absolutely love it. You're a crack up to talk to too, man. I love it. It's so good. I feel like your personality and your ideas are what spark all this, So people need to check out the book. So where can they get the book?
Oh yeah, you can get it at Amazon. You can get it at a bookshop. It's all those places. Yeah.
Okay, and give us the title again, just so everyone can take.
Yeah. It's Church on the Move.
Church on the Move.
Church on the Move: A Practical Guide for Ministry in the Community.
What you got? You got it?
Yeah. I did have it right here.
Hold it up for us.
I got a PDF, but I got the hard copy.
Just so folks can see the cover,
you gotta see this. This is all you can see.
Yeah, that's fine. Good enough.
There we go. How about that?
Perfect. Church on the Move. Yeah. Church on the Move. Go get it on Amazon. Well, Travis, this has been great, man. I love just your heart and how I just kind of hearing your story and seeing how God kind of morphed you into local community church and doing these things and how that's having an impact in the community, even getting a hold of the news person, and now you have the bike report. That kind of stuff is super, super, super cool. And I think lots of pastors can every community is different, every area is different, every pastor is different, and kind of your strengths and things that God would put on your heart, but just finding ways to serve your community and at the end of the day, and how can you weave together what God's got together at your church and what the community needs, and having some fun along the way doing it,
Yeah, it's a great thing. Yeah. I'm really enjoying it. I hear a lot of people complain about, church ministry right now, but I think it's a great time. If you just put a little bit of love into it, I think you get, threefold back.
Yeah, absolutely. I think basically everyone that listens to the podcast needs to at least once a week, ride your bike to work.
Yeah.
Get to know some of the people in the community in that way, or find some version of that. Maybe ride your bird scooter or your electric bike or your whatever.
Yeah, get an e-bike.
Get an e-bike, get out there. And I'm sure you got lots of people that have come to church with you just from meeting them while you're riding around, come
Yeah, it's not been like kind of like, hordes of people coming in.
Yeah.
But it's been enough people that at least, they're interested. They'll talk to you,
Right.
They realize, hey, well, we do group rides and you can ride side by side with someone and they'll tell you their life story.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, absolutely, man. I love it. Well, people need to go check out the book. I didn't even know you wrote a book, so I think that's pretty cool.
Yeah. Thanks. Yeah.
And all the community pastors, man, need to kind of take some notes and just kind of go, okay, how can I apply this kind of thinking into my world? So where can folks go? I got 3 quick questions.
Oh yeah.
First, where can folks go to check out like your church, like the website, any social media, those kind of things?
Yep. judsonchurch.org, JUDSON church.org.
There you go. Easy. Mm-hmm. Okay. What's a book that you think everybody needs to read? Not the Bible.
Oh, boy.
We got that one down.
Man. I would say the Journal of John Woolman. He was a pre-revolutionary Quaker. And you read that journal and your life's never going to be the same. He just approached how you combine justice and spirituality and Christianity in a way that will just blow your mind. Yeah.
Okay. Love that. What's a podcast you're listening to right now?
Oh, yeah. The War on Cars. Yes.
The War on Cars.
Yeah. The War on Cars. Yeah. It's it's out of Brooklyn. It's a fun podcast. Yeah. Those guys are just,
And what's it about? Like literally about cars? Like they're all.
Well, it's about biking, busing, walking, that stuff. And so it's a facetious name, the War on Cars. But it's just a great way to think about how you can think alternatively about your community and how you get around in it. They've got some fun. They're funny. They're funny people and they do good stuff. Yeah,
I love it. Yeah. All right, y'all. Well, everybody go check out on Twitter, Peddling Pastor. Go get to know Travis. He's doing some cool things. Travis, thanks for coming on the show today, man.
Oh, thank you, Frank. I really appreciate this. Thanks a lot.
Yes, absolutely. And everybody listening, appreciate you guys. We'll catch you next week on another episode of Modern Church Leader. See ya.